Choose peace over avoiding loneliness. My name is Jared Mello, and this is an episode of Mello Mentoring. Today's episode is going to be more like a video diary entry, because it's right where I am right now. I'm at a spot right now where I haven't really truly had a girlfriend for many years, but I've certainly dated plenty of women in the last couple years or so. But none of them have really lasted because we weren't good for each other. And I've had opportunities to go back to women that wasn't very good for me, but I've been choosing to stay alone and to learn how to deal with the loneliness. And the loneliness is something that comes and goes for me, and it's really intertwined with my mental health, where I've never completely overcame any of it. Right? It's like I can do okay with my mental health 90% of the time, but there's still going to be 10% where I struggle. And the same can be said for me being happy and single, where I think the majority of the time I'm pretty good now. I have goals. I have my YouTube channel. I have my interview series and my other jobs, and I invest, and I work out a lot, and I read. Those are all the things that are fulfilling to me. And I listen to music. But there's still 10% of the time where I ache and I long for female companionship. And at this moment, I have no one really to go back to. I mean, I could have gone back to people that have been toxic for me, but I'm choosing not to do that. And since I've been about 16 years old, if not younger, I've always had an issue with trying to escape with fantasy somehow, some way. And since I was kind of brought up on the Disney fantasy, I kind of grew up with instilling in myself the fantasy that a woman could save me, or a woman would make things all better. And we all know how untrue that is. But even though it is that untrue, it can still be very difficult to unlearn. So here I am in the spot where I gotta push through that aching longing that's like depression mixed in with loneliness, and it's when I have to remember to myself, this too shall pass. And it always does eventually. But what do I do in those times where I'm feeling bad? What do I try to escape it? Do I try to go through it? What we do in those times says a lot about ourselves. What we do in that percentage of time when we're not feeling good. And I've learned it can really define us, how we escape, or do we decide just to stand in it? Do we decide to try to walk through it and get through it? Now, I'm still not a stranger to escaping in some ways. Like, I won't mind some beers, but I'm certainly not the way I used to be with it, where I would go off into fantasy land. And that's come with its own set of problems too, that I don't do that anymore. It's like I'm having to learn how to merge my fantasy world with my reality, which I'm doing, but it can be exhausting being too much in reality for me. And so I'll still crave an escape from time to time. I'm just not as bad as I used to be. And I think as I get better with my mental health, and I've developed my supplement routine, I've developed some radical self-respect, it's interesting to me how women in particular have treated me. When I had severe anxiety and I wasn't on any supplements and I had zero sense of self-worth and boundaries, women pretty much just avoided me like the plague. And unless I was drinking and using drugs, I never had anyone. So when I was clean and I wanted to date, I would just repel women, it would seem. I would be needy, I would be insecure, I would have anxiety, and no women liked me. I was in a dry spell for a few years there, from like 25 to 28 or so. It was bad, and it wasn't and to be completely honest, it wasn't because I was doing it purposefully. I was just striking out left and right. And in no small part, like, this was a big pusher, a big reason why I decided that, hey, I need to do something about my issue here, because I'm having a hard time solving my reproduction issue. How do I solve this? And so I went down my supplement journey. And it's been very interesting while I've been on my supplement journey how women have responded to me differently in regards to how I presented myself. For a while there, I maybe had a lot of borderline traits and women liked me a little more, but eventually I would do some splitting or I would be very impulsive and maybe scare women away. And now that I think I've gotten to a pretty good place with my mental health and have a good supplement routine and practice radical self-respect, now some women tell me I'm narcissistic or pompous or some other unflattering word. And I can still be sometimes sensitive to those kinds of things, and it hurts. And I can still be sensitive to women giving me the cold shoulder or not talking to me and ignoring me. It can still suck. So I'm not perfect and I'm still human in those ways, but I'm learning that maybe how I thought in my more darker times isn't relevant anymore. So maybe I was trying to overcompensate before when I had a lot of anxiety to be more cocky or arrogant or something. I don't know what I was doing, but whatever I was doing, it wasn't working. And now, maybe I don't need to do that anymore. Maybe it's like, just be chill. Just be chill and try to practice some humility. And that's where I am right now. And it's different though, because women, although they were completely rejecting me before when I had a lot of anxiety, but they didn't really hate me, right? They just didn't want anything to do with me sexually. And now, some women really get angry with me or tell me I'm narcissistic or something, and they act disgusted by it, but yet they're still there. And yet, they still wanted me. So it's like, there's this cognitive dissonance amongst women themselves where they may not like something about someone, but they'll still want them. And before, women would always tell me things like, Jared, you would be a great catch for any woman. But what they really mean is, any woman but me. Because I was checking all the boxes of things that women said they wanted. The thing is, they very seldomly go with the person that checks all the boxes. They go with the man that makes them feel a certain way. The man they're aroused by and attracted to. That's who they go with. And so it's been a very interesting case study for me, how I've progressed with my mental health and self-respect, and how differently women have treated me. So I'm at this spot now where I'm not going back to toxicity. I'm choosing to be alone. I'm choosing to be happy on purpose. Single on purpose, as the angry therapist would say. And just try to be okay with me. And it's been extremely difficult for me to get through this, because I have that hole sometimes in my heart that just wants to be filled. And of all of the demons and ways I've filled that void in me, women have been the hardest one for me to not go back to. It's the one I first started with as a kid, fantasizing about some attractive woman and living happily ever after, and then having to realize that that's not reality. And I've struggled a lot with trying just to be happy and single, and to not even try to date or to have sex. Just that is extremely difficult for me. It's extremely difficult for me not to try. It's extremely difficult for me to not to try to have sex or something. And so it's tough. But I think this time it's going to be different, because I've had opportunities to go back to people that weren't good for me, and I haven't done it. And I miss those people too. I miss those people. I miss their kids in some cases. And a part of me still loves them and will probably always love them to a point. But it's just so difficult when it's just not going to be a productive relationship. And the same things will just happen over and over. And it hurts to know that. It hurts to fast forward the tapes and realize unless we both work on ourselves and we both change, it just won't work. So I'm choosing to walk alone. And it's been pretty much years since I've been alone. So you'd think I'd be used to it, but I am used to it for the most part. But I still have some want for human connection, right? And sometimes just hanging out with the guys just isn't enough. And I want that female companionship. But I'm purposefully not going to it right now. I'm trying to get through to the other side of this where I just stop even thinking that I'm single. And I stop even realizing that I don't have someone. That's the indicator to me that I'm doing better, is that when I'm not even thinking about it. So I have my YouTube, I have goals, I have things that I'm trying to accomplish, and hopefully I do. And I have a feeling I will. And I'm trying to really focus on my interview series coming up on this channel. And I'm going to try to be more humble and act with humility and not be narcissistic or cocky or arrogant or anything else other people may say. But to express gratitude, and I made this realization to myself the other day that I mentioned in my book, and the audio book is coming very soon. I'm reviewing it right now before I upload it, but I mentioned in the book that we are all leaders, right? And a good leader takes a little more than his fair share of the blame and a little less than his fair share of the credit. And I was realizing I wasn't doing that completely in my own life. I wanted to take credit for becoming financially successful without giving credit to the people that have helped me along the way. Pay student loans, for example, or stay with them for free, for example. And it's like, if I'm going to be a good leader for myself and to others, I should be giving them more credit. I should be saying, I couldn't do it without people helping me with my student loans. Although they're not doing it as much now because I'm paying them, but they did help me before. And I was able to stay for free for a long time too. And I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without that. So I need to show more gratitude for that. So that's my video diary entry for the day. And the theme is choose peace, choose growth over avoiding loneliness. And yes, the feelings can suck, whether it's mental health induced or just loneliness induced, wanting human companionship, but this too shall pass. It can and will end and will be good. One day at a time, we can be good. We can walk through it as opposed to trying to avoid it. So thank you for watching and have a great day.